Hey class, it's Jessie again, and as you know, we are talking about lighting, which is essentially what a photograph is. It's capturing light in some way. So this is obviously key to your images, and photography lighting has really influenced video and filmmakers. It affects the mood. You can change the whole mood of a movie or a video by affecting light, and the same with a photograph. So, a key thing to think about and to remember is that the larger the light source, the softer the light. So, soft light meaning there's going to be less harsh lines, it's going to be really flattering. So, for example, if there is direct light from the sun alone, you're going to have a really distinct shadow, as opposed to when it's overcast, it creates a really nice soft light and there's a lot less harsh shadows. I love shooting in video and photographs in overcast days because you don't really have to worry about lighting as much because it's even pretty much wherever you put your subject. And I love to shoot outside. However, the colors are less vibrant. So there's a give and take there. And let's take a little look at what this means. So when you are shooting outside, which I highly recommend you do at least some of your photos outside, avoid shooting at midday. Evening and morning light is softer and better, something called a magic hour. Hour before sunrise, hour after sunset, the light is really soft and really flattering as the sun is going down and coming up. Side light is indeed better than vertical light. Shooting with when the sun is going down and lower in the sky just looks more flattering. And make sure, that you shade the lens so that no sunlight is shining directly onto the lens. So this is talking about using a digital camera, which is ideal for this class if you have access to a DSLR or if you're in Fort Collins and you can come over to CSU and check out a camera from our checkout room. That's ideal. However, you can use your phone. Okay. Before we get into some examples, things to think about when looking for a location to start shooting your photographs, think about where is that light source coming from? Is it coming from the sun? Is it coming from a window if you're inside? Is it above? Is it the side? Are there trees? Are there clouds? Is there potential for a cloud to start covering the sun in the middle of your shoot? Just being aware of the light. Position your subject so that the light is in their face. So the light should be at your back as a photographer or videographer. And you can also use some tools, not necessarily lights, but reflectors and things to bounce light into your subject's face, or you can use a diffuser to create clouds, and avoid shooting at noon. I've said this multiple times. I'm going to show you exactly why. So when you have light from directly above or below, it tends to create some really harsh lines on your subject and some harsh shadows. Okay, looking at the photo on the right, which is obviously lit from below, this is the cliche scary lighting, right? When you're a little kid and you're having a sleepover and you want to tell a horror story and you shine the flashlight underneath your chin to look creepy, this is what this is doing. I'd like to bring up a quote that I heard at a speech from one of the directors for American Horror Story. And he said basically there's no such thing as bad lighting. Just because this image on the right may have unquote bad lighting, there's a lot of harsh shadows, it's creating a menacing mood, which the photographer was going for. Him as the subject, he was a little less impressed with this photo, but you can use bad lighting to affect the mood. When I say quote unquote bad lighting, however, if you're trying to create a nice pretty portrait and you're using harsh lighting, that lighting is not matched towards your goal. You want to match your lighting towards your goals, but using light to influence the mood is a big part of being a photographer. However, most times you are going to want to make your subject look good. So the photo on the left there, that's some nice side light, a little softer coming through the trees. And there's that harsh noon sunlight that we're talking about on the right. There's that unattractive shadow that kind of comes over her lips there. There's she's squinting, her eyes are covered, and you really want to make sure you're capturing your subject's eyes in focus, easy to see, and their shadows cast. So avoid shooting at noon for this reason. Here's another exception. Sometimes you can backlight your subject. If the light is softer, this was shot in winter, so the sun was a lot less harsh and was kind of getting diffused through the trees. I actually took this photograph of my friend. There's a nice little halo around her head there, and it was soft enough that it kind of created a nice even light across her face, no harsh lines, very flattering. So there are some exceptions to having your subject face the light. Same here. Sometimes friend light can be a little too harsh, and sometimes turn your subject around and see what it looks like. Cameras, the sensors in cameras, including digital cameras and your phones, have gotten a lot better at capturing low light images, so play around with it. Take some photos. It's not like you're going to run out of film, so see what looks best. Again, some nice soft backlight as the sun's going down, and this cute little kid and his little chicken. I just love this photo. Rule of thirds, great framing, not too much headroom. When you're shooting a subject, you want to make sure that their head is not getting cut off from the frame unless you're doing an extreme close-up, but that you give them a little bit of headroom there. Okay, shooting in the shade. This is like your default diffuser on a hot sunny day if you don't actually have a physical diffuser, which I'll show you in a second. This is another photo that I took. This is a friend of mine and her daughter, and I just kind of put them in the shade there. You do have to worry about exposure issues when you're placing your subjects in the shade and there is a lot of light in the background. Sometimes the background can be blown out, but this light was really soft, so there's no harsh lines on any of them, and you can see them really clearly, and the background is not too bright. So don't be afraid to try and move your subjects into the shade. Now, let's talk about some tools. As I said in the intro video, learning how to use lighting and properly 3-point light a subject in different environments is an entire class. So let's use some tools which can honestly create a more natural, flattering look. Reflectors, we have some of these to check out from the equipment room. They usually come in a little circle, and then you have like a silver light, a gold light, and a diffuser all in one. They're like 15, 20 bucks online, I'm pretty sure, if you were interested in buying one of those. And you just use them when your subject is not facing the light to either bounce light into their face or kind of fill inside light. So here's some examples of like with and without a reflector. They can make a huge difference in your photographs. Really inexpensive way and easy way to light your subject. And you can just grab a friend. I always like to grab an extra person when I'm shooting if possible so that they can hold the reflector on and reflect light into my subject's face. And so if you forgot a reflector or you don't have one, this is what an official reflector looks like. So you have the diffuser in front, and then you have like gold, which can create like a sunset type look, the silver on one side and the white to bounce more light into somebody. That's an official reflector. Or if you're in a pinch, grab some tinfoil, put it over a board. I literally buy these car sunshades on purpose, little foldy ones, because when I forget my reflector, not if, and I highly recommend making a camera bag so that this doesn't happen. They usually have one of these in my car. I'll put it out and use the reflector, or if we've hiked in somewhere and I didn't bring my car, usually somebody else has a reflector in their car that I've used, well, a sun shield in their car. I just call them reflectors at this point, and can use that to bounce light into your subject's face. Also, putting somebody next to a white wall, white really bounces light off a lot, black kind of stops it. So I will often wear a white shirt when I shoot because it helps to just bounce a little more light into my subject's faces. I've used white towels, sheets, put them against a white wall, anything to kind of bounce some extra light into my subject's face. So now talking about diffusers, these are basically like clouds. So if you have to shoot at noon, then you can use the diffuser, aka the inside of most reflectors, and you can basically create clouds and really soften the light going on to your subject. So here's what that looks like. Some really harsh light on the left versus a diffuser really softens the light. Maybe you've seen some professional photography kits and setups where they have a soft box. So they'll have a light and then they'll put a little square box around it. That is basically a diffuser to soften the light. Also, shooting inside. What I will often do if I'm shooting inside is I will put a window to my back, and I will use the light coming from the window to light up my subject's face. The reason that I do this as opposed to using lights in the home or using lights in different areas is that cameras aren't awesome at picking up light, especially from fluorescence. So there's terrible lights that they have in Walmart and offices, and most classes at CSU. Cameras aren't very good at picking those up. Lamps are sometimes a little better, but fluorescence, you will see that you'll end up with a lot of grainy photographs because the camera has to work really hard to detect that light. So using a window, using natural light, if you don't have an actual light kit, is one so much better than using light from fluorescence. Your camera just is not designed to pick those up. You may walk inside and outside and be able to see perfectly clear because our eyes are excellent at adjusting. But remember, guys, cameras are dumb and we have to help them, and fluorescents are not your friend. They're better than no light, but using natural light is so much better. And as I said, when you're outside, best lighting is during magic hours, so kind of as the sun's going down or coming up. That wraps up our little lecture on lighting. Start looking at different ways you can use your environment to light your subject and just start experimenting and seeing what looks best. We have storage, and SD cards are pretty inexpensive, so take a bunch of photographs and really experiment. Work with somebody who has a lot of patience and you can kind of play with and see what looks good.